Ever feel like you're constantly playing catch up, trying to stay on top of the latest trends?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like every time you finally figure something out, there's a new wave of information crashing in.
Right. And that's exactly why we do these deep dives.
Mm.
We're aiming to give you that shortcut to understanding what's really gaining traction without, having to spend hours sifting through reports.
Exactly. Cut through the noise.
But today we're tackling something really interesting, a space that's often overlooked when it comes to product ideas.
Yeah, and that's low-tech and even no-tech niches.
Think like those everyday items, but with a clever twist.
You got it. We're looking at simple solutions, making a big impact.
And we're focusing specifically on the pet kitchen and bathroom categories for 2025 to pinpoint those opportunities that, well, they don't require complex tech, but are showing a lot of potential.
Yeah, and the goal is to understand why these simpler solutions are gaining so much popularity, what's driving this trend.
Let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Let's start with pets. Over 60% of Australian households have a pet.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's a massive market. And what we're seeing is this real momentum in the low-tech solutions space for pets.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is you don't need fancy apps or robotics or AI to tap into this market.
Right. It's back to basics in a way, but with some, clever twists.
It really is. What's captivating about this trend when you dig into the data is this return to fundamental needs, like often with a really strong emphasis on natural materials and thoughtful aesthetics.
Okay, so give me an example of that.
Sure, let's talk about snuffle mats.
Okay.
So for those listening who aren't familiar, snuffle mats are essentially fabric puzzles for dogs and cats.
Oh, okay, I've seen those.
Yeah. And what's interesting from a business perspective is they have surprisingly low production costs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yet the variety in design is amazing, and the way they cater to different animal behaviors.
So it's simple but effective, and there's room for creativity.
Exactly, and it's
Yeah.
tapping into that desire for enrichment for pets, even when their owners aren't home.
All right, keeps them entertained. And speaking of keeping pets entertained, what about chew toys? What are we seeing trending there?
So one thing that really stood out in the research was the rise of chew toys made from kangaroo,
Kangaroo for
specifically kangaroo, and also sustainable wood options.
Interesting. I hadn't actually heard about kangaroo chew toys.
Yeah, they're gaining traction. Apparently, they're really durable, which is obviously important for a chew toy.
It does.
And these are popping up all over platforms like Pinterest and Etsy.
Oh, so that's where I might have seen them.
Yeah, if you're on those platforms and you happen to be a pet owner, you might have noticed them. And it reflects a larger trend of pet owners wanting healthier and more stimulating options for their animals. The emphasis on natural and sustainable isn't just a marketing ploy.
Right. It speaks to a deeper concern about, their pet's well-being and a desire to be eco-conscious.
Exactly. And as we saw with the snuffle mats, it's not just about what the product does, it's also about how it looks and feels.
You're right. It's got to be aesthetically pleasing for the pet parent, too.
Yeah.
It's like an extension of their own style.
Totally. It's almost like a lifestyle choice now.
Yeah, and even with something as basic as pet grooming tools, we're seeing this trend toward natural materials and sustainability.
Oh, absolutely. We found examples like eco-friendly brushes made with bamboo and paw balms made with Australian beeswax. It's about that combination of practical utility with a natural and local touch that seems to resonate with pet owners.
Okay, so if someone listening is thinking about jumping into the pet product space, what would you say are some of the, most important things to keep in mind?
Well, the key takeaway from our research is that it's not about competing directly with the big pet supply retailers.
Okay, so don't try to be the next Pet Barn or whatever.
Right. Instead, it's about identifying and serving a very specific, maybe underserved niche.
Okay, niche down. Find a problem that pet owners are facing and solve it.
You got it. Think about those specific, maybe less obvious challenges or desires within pet care, like those nagging frustrations that pet owners experience that a simple, well-designed product could alleviate.
So basically, if you're a pet owner yourself, pay attention to what bugs you, what you wish was better.
Yeah, exactly. Often the best ideas come from our own experiences.
Makes sense. All right, let's move into the kitchen now. Kitchenware might seem like a really established category.
Yeah, people have been cooking and eating for a long time.
Right. But there are some interesting shifts happening. The big ones seem to be this move towards simplicity, sustainability, and making the most of space.
Oh, definitely. We're seeing a move away from those overly complex, multifunctional gadgets and a return to more practical, durable, and environmentally responsible solutions.
Yeah, less is more.
Exactly. And think about collapsible kitchen tools, like funnels that fold flat, colanders that compress, bowls that nest perfectly. Those are becoming super popular.
Yeah, especially for people living in apartments or smaller homes where every inch of storage space counts.
Absolutely. They solve a real problem for those folks.
Yeah, if you ever tried to cram one more bulky item into a tiny kitchen cupboard, you know what we're talking about.
For sure. And another trend that kept popping up in the research was magnetic fridge organizers.
Oh yeah, those are clever. So simple, but so useful.
Right. And the sources highlighted both their practical benefit, obviously keeping things tidy and accessible, but also their visual appeal. They're all over Pinterest mood boards and such. It seems that even utilitarian items are being viewed through a more aesthetic lens these days.
Yeah, function and form have to go hand in hand. People want their kitchens to look good too.
Absolutely. And that visual element is becoming even more important with things like compost bin liners and other eco-friendly waste disposal
Oh, you
solutions.
mean because you don't want a big ugly bin sitting out on your counter?
Yeah, exactly. The sources specifically mentioned how important it is for these items to look good. It's about integrating sustainable practices into your home seamlessly without compromising style.
So in the kitchen space, it's not about creating the next smart fridge or whatever.
Mm.
It seems like the opportunities are more in smart design and problem solving around those little daily frustrations we all experience.
Right. You don't need complex electronics to be successful here. It's more about those clever, well thought out designs.
And there was another great coach tip that came out of the research for this area. They basically said, look closely at your own kitchen and ask yourself what annoys you, what could be better designed or more convenient.
It's so true, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes the best business ideas are right in front of us.
Absolutely. Pay attention to those moments when you think, I wish this was.
Yeah, those are golden nuggets. Okay, let's talk about the final category in our low-tech exploration, and that's the bathroom.
Yeah, the bathroom.
The sources described it as a quietly trending area and surprisingly profitable. I mean, who knew?
Right. But when you think about it, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
why is this area, our washrooms, seeing this increased interest?
It seems like the driving force is this desire to create a spa-like atmosphere in what is often a very functional space.
Okay, I get that. Like taking your bathroom from purely practical to more like a sanctuary.
Exactly. It's about elevating those daily routines and introducing a sense of calm and well-being into the bathroom.
So what kind of low-tech products fit into this trend for 2025?
Well, there were a few interesting examples, things like eco-friendly shower brushes with wooden handles and silicone
Yeah,
scrubbers.
those are nice. I've seen those.
Yeah, they're simple, durable, and really tap into that desire for natural materials, even in the shower.
It's a tactile, aesthetically pleasing alternative to just a basic plastic brush.
Exactly. And of course, those refillable bathroom dispensers, the ones made with amber glass and bamboo lids.
Yeah, those are everywhere at the moment.
They're all over Pinterest, and for good reason. They look fantastic, and they're a much more sustainable and visually appealing alternative to disposable plastic bottles. They really contribute to that spa-like feel.
Totally.
Yeah.
And even something as mundane as toilet paper storage solutions can play into this trend.
You're right. Like, think about those hanging baskets made from natural fibers or sleek vertical holders.
Yeah, it's about taking something ordinary and making it more stylish and functional.
Exactly. And it's worth noting that these types of bathroom items are generally low risk to produce and pretty easy to ship.
Which is a big advantage for smaller businesses.
For sure. And they also align really well with the Etsy aesthetic. Etsy buyers often look for better versions of everyday items, things that feel more handcrafted, unique, or considered than what they might find in big retail stores.
Okay, so it's about that handmade artisanal feel.
Exactly.
And speaking of Etsy, there was an AMZ coach tip specifically for this bathroom category.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
Well, it really emphasized the power of visuals. The idea is that if a product looks good in a flat lay photo,
Mm,
those perfectly styled top-down shots, it's likely to do really well online.
makes sense. Those photos are everywhere these days.
Yeah, they're super popular, and for good reason. It really highlights how important visual design is, especially when you're selling something that's essentially an everyday item.
It's about connecting that visual appeal to the product's daily functionality for the consumer.
Right, you've got to show people how it will fit into their lives and enhance their space. So let's wrap this up. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
What are the core takeaways for our listeners who are thinking about exploring these low-tech opportunities in 2025?
Well, the research consistently pointed to a few key ingredients.
Okay, hit me with them.
First, you need to clearly identify a specific niche, whether it's pet care, kitchen solutions, or bathroom upgrades. You can't be everything to everyone.
Right, niche down, focus.
Exactly. Second, develop a product that genuinely solves a problem a long-term need, ideally.
So something that people will use again and again, not a fad.
Right. And third, invest in crafting a compelling brand story and really high-quality visuals. Pay attention to what's working on platforms like Pinterest and Etsy. That's where a lot of the inspiration is coming from.
Okay, so you've got your niche, your problem-solving product, and your strong brand and visuals. What else?
Well, the really encouraging thing is that you don't need to invest a ton of money in developing complex technology or manufacturing processes.
So it's more accessible to everyday entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
Mhm.
These low-tech opportunities are all about focusing on design, sourcing quality materials, and having a smart marketing strategy.
So as our listeners go about their day, what's the one thing we want them to walk away thinking about?
I think the biggest takeaway is to encourage them to look closely at the everyday objects around them, those things we often take for granted.
Yeah, the mundane stuff.
Right. Think about those little frustrations you encounter, those areas where a bit of thoughtful design, a focus on natural materials, or just a more appealing aesthetic could make a real difference. Even without fancy technology, these subtle improvements can be huge opportunities.
It's about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Precisely.
And who knows, maybe your next big idea is hiding in plain sight.
It just might be.
Awesome stuff. Well, thanks for joining me for this deep dive. It's been a fascinating conversation.
It really has. Thanks for having me.
Until next time.
See you then.